This sitting is resumed. We continue with the Standing Finance Committee.
This House is in Standing Finance Committee. Honourable Member for Christchurch East.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. First, allow me to start by congratulating the Minister. I know that the Honourable Member for Christchurch South seems to take particular offense when we do compliment or commend, but wishes to be at complete liberty to attack and derogate whenever he wants. Sir, in this circumstance, one of the most obvious success stories of this government has been the performance of the Ministry of Tourism. We went through a difficult period occasioned by COVID that saw many tourism-based economies collapsing. But we have rebounded in what I consider to be spectacular fashion. This rebound started under the former minister, Minister Lisa Cummins, but has continued and accelerated to a spectacular, I don't want to say a conclusion, because that would then suggest to the minister that his work is finished, as opposed to we want more in the same vein. But I think it is necessary, sir, for us to recognize the importance of our bread and butter industry and to recognize the sterling contribution by this minister and his team to the recovery and providing that necessary oxygen for Barbados to go forward. So I wish to commend him and his team, sir. I'll just single out a couple of people that I know and that I have worked with, particularly to show how the face has changed. Sir, we are one government, but for too long, government has operated in silos, and ministries jealously guarding their territory and wanted to keep the secrets, and nobody wanted to let anybody know exactly what they're doing, and just being very territorial about things that should actually promote the common good of Barbados. I have not found that, sir, with this particular minister, or even his ministry. His PS, sir, was my second PS. And I'm glad to see that she has continued and accelerated and climbed the higher mountain. So even persons under the ministry, under the ambit of the ministry, I have a particularly close working relationship with Mr. Hardy Boren, the CEO of Gaia Inc. He has seen me a number of times because I believe, sir, in doing spot checks where things are critical for us. I do spot checks at post offices, I do spot checks at the prison, I do spot checks at immigration, and I do spot checks just at the airport just to make sure that what people are telling me I'm actually seeing. So what Mr. Bourne said about the harmonious interactions and efficiencies at the airport, so I can bear witness to it because he walked me through the entire process. We actually stood there one evening and timed people coming through the door to their going out, coming through the door into immigration to their going out at customs. Sir, Mr. John Marie, who is in charge of the port, I have found him to be very, very cooperative. Anytime we want anything done or we have questions or queries or facilitations required, he has stepped up to the plate. I mean, Ms. Williams with BTMI, sir, is well known to most of Barbados, and I commend her for the sterling work that she's doing as the chair of that board. And I'm just gonna go on one other because I can keep picking apart the ministry and pretty much is all compliments. Ms. Cheryl Carter, who recently, I think, was appointed as the COO for the BTMI, sir. I have known her for a very long time. She is one of those veterans in tourism, and the fact that the UK market has yielded the results that it has yielded speaks to the quality of the person that we are now putting as pretty much the second in command of BTMI. So things look very good for the minister, his ministry, and the organs under him. Sir, I'm particularly concerned about regional travel. I remember, sir, when I was a student at UE, I could get a flight from Barbados to Trinidad for $230. And every so often, sir, when the flight dropped to $198, I mean, the saving of $32 was incentive enough to pop to Trinidad for a weekend. I do believe, sir, that we need to excite and develop even more our regional tourism product. And I just want to know from the minister what is being done to try to bring down the costs of interregional travel. In some instances, sir, it is cheaper for us to get on a flight to Miami than it is to get to a nearby Caribbean territory. So I'm just wondering what is in the basket, sir, to allow and encourage interregional travel to further develop our overall tourism package.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Let me also, on behalf of the Ministry, thank you for your kind words on behalf of all of those who work with the Ministry and all associated agencies. It is always a good thing for those who are on the front lines to be commended for their performance, and I thank you on their behalf for all that you said about them and the work that they do in the interests of Barbados. In respect of regional travel, you are correct. There has been there's been a challenge in terms of us getting additional airlines to serve Barbados. However, I believe that the firm strategy and correct approach would be to encourage other or existing carriers to build out their footprint within the region. Certainly when you look at the services that we currently offer, were it not for Inter-Caribbean and the arrangement that we have with them, our numbers from within the Caribbean would be much lower. It is a constant work in progress, but the way to achieve it is to work with airlines within the region to encourage them to expand their services within the region. Having said that, the issue has always been the lack of supply of aircraft. And when you're faced with an issue where there's a lack of supply of aircraft and for which there's more demand, then of course, price will dominate in the market. And that is what we've seen. It is not only within the Caribbean market where we've seen that. At one point in time, before we had additional flights, you would have seen based on demand that a ticket to Miami, for example, would have been more expensive than we would have thought it would have been because of the rules of demand and supply. So we are going to continue to work with other airlines within the region. For example, I would have mentioned that we are working with Suriname Airways. We are continuing to work with Cayman, especially on the connections to get people into Barbados. Caribbean Airlines, we are working with them. We would also like them to expand their footprint. But the issue has always been the lack of equipment and the aircraft, the inventory of aircraft that they have. As long as they continue to work out those logistical challenges in respect of the number of aircraft, I believe that we are well positioned. But it also requires out-of-the-box thinking, and this is where the BTNMI continues to do an excellent job for us. Notwithstanding the challenges, we have launched through Caribbean Airlines a number of services. The most recent launch would have been the route to Jamaica. where there is Kingston, Jamaica, where there's demand. We've also had, for example, an expansion of flights out of St. Lucia and Dominica, and of course, St. Kitts. Before Inter-Caribbean was in the market space, persons wanted to travel from St. Kitts would have had to fly to Miami and then come all the way down to Bridgetown. So it remains a work in progress. Like I said, Suriname Airways, they had an inaugural flight. They have a twice weekly service from Suriname to Guyana onto Barbados. We're going to continue to work with them. As I indicated, we also have to, in order to drive demand to the destination, we have to work around a number of events within the region when there's obviously huge demand for other destinations with the region. So we're going to work with them. Of course, the loss of Leah in no small measure has contributed to some of the lack of equipment that we have operating with the region. The other issue as it relates to the cost of interregional travel, you're well aware that the government of Barbados would have reduced as a budgetary measure last year from June to December the CARICOM service charge, which therefore made Barbados a little bit more competitive, but also that was designed to drive additional traffic to Barbados. And I can tell you based on our numbers that that has worked and worked well. Of course, we can never prejudge a budget, but of course it would be obviously an opportunity for us to look and see how best a similar type of arrangement could be implemented in order to reduce the cost of air travel. So we will continue, Minister, to analyze the market, to create the necessary competitive environment, to increase airlift into the destination from within the Caribbean. We're going to have to work with those partners to ensure that it makes sense for them as well, because aviation economics could be a tricky business. And if you don't get your routes right, then it could cause a departure from a particular route. So we're paying attention to it. If we can, we had Air Antilles, obviously that flying to the region, obviously for other reasons, their operation no longer exists. But our opportunity is that we have to look within the Caribbean region. There are some, and I don't want to prejudge what we're likely to do, but there are some opportunities that we are aligning ourselves and working with in order to create greater demand. Like I said, the Virgin flight that we have on the shared arrangement out of Barbados into St. Vincent and Grenada will certainly help us to drive some additional traffic, and because of the size of the aircraft as well. So to answer your simple question, it is difficult. It is not easy, but we are working to achieve what we have to do. But the important thing for us is the adjustment in the CARICOM service charge would have helped us to drive additional traffic to Barbados and as well as reducing costs. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Minister. In another life, I was actively involved in sports. You probably couldn't tell it looking at me now. But I want to know, is the ministry in any way focusing on sports tourism? I guess this is a thing that is across ministries because it involves the Ministry of Tourism. It also involves the Ministry of Sports, Youth and Culture. Sorry, Sports and Youth. I think that we miss some opportunities sometimes in not expanding our contemplation as to what a tourist looks like. We know the tourists we traditionally get, those that come in winter. And I do appreciate all of the business. I do appreciate the influx. And similar to the IMF team, I was trying to book a reservation for dinner and I had great difficulty. Great difficulty. I was annoyed on one hand, but pleased on another. But these are the tourists that come for 6 months of the year. When we are looking at how we fill the other 6 months, because I noticed you said that the summer tourism package, the summer tourism initiative, you're starting at 6 months ahead of time. I see a low-hanging fruit as being those children from U.S. colleges who might be sports teams looking to get off and come to Barbados. I see other teams coming to Barbados. I know we encourage them in winter, but we can also do it in summer for summer type sports. So I'm wondering if there's anything in your estimates, or if there's any initiative on the part of your ministry to actually do a major push in relation to sports tourism, and not just the traditional areas of sports tourism. Let's actually start to look at some other lesser known sports that might have persons who travel with their families. Let's say shooting, for example. In shooting competitions, you may have one principal person shooting, but invariably they roll with the whole family because the tournaments last over a week, or sometimes into 2 weeks if it's different disciplines. So you have the whole family rolling with the one principal person and occupying lots of bed space. So I'm just wondering if that is an area that you're looking at, the non-traditional sporting areas, to pick up some of that slack in the summer months, or just generally, and what is in the pipeline where that's concerned?
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I will weigh in on this and then also ask the BTMI Chair and CEO to weigh in as well. What I can tell you, and the Honourable Member for St. John is here, is that we have a sports tourism consultant who works very closely in both ministries. We are fortunate to have a person who's actually spent his career in sports and building out that, but also a person who has understanding of the tourism sector. And what we've set out to do, and perhaps you were listening to some of our strategy meetings when you posed the question. The issue here is that in order to drive, and summer the summer in Barbados is a different dynamic. And because of that, we see there's a huge opportunity for sporting groups, as I alluded to in my opening remarks, to come to Barbados. And when you have like a netball or a soccer team or football team, as they call it, when you have a cricket team and all these other sporting disciplines coming to Barbados, they're not only coming here to Barbados with the coach, they're also going to encourage their families to come, and more often than not, you will have their families coming to Barbados. It is a golden opportunity for us to encourage that segment of the market to come to Barbados with their families for the summer. And that is what we're doing. The officer was recently in the United Kingdom market, where he met with several schools and sporting agencies and other bodies with the objective of driving summer business. Will we get the great majority this summer? The answer is no. But longer term, in terms of the build-out strategy, we anticipate that we will have more. I was on a flight recently, and coming to Barbados were a group of netballers, and they were in large numbers. But if we can bring along with those netballers their families in the summer, then I think it'll be a wonderful opportunity. It's good for the interaction between sport teams, but it's also good for us because those who are coming here must stay in accommodation, and they will have to eat, and they will want to enjoy some of the nightlife and the restaurants that we have in Barbados. So it will certainly be a win-win situation for us. The other area, in order to build out summer, we have to look to the Gulf states, and that is where we've placed an emphasis on in terms of trying to ramp up that market to the extent possible that we can get business here. We all know in the Gulf states, it is usually very, very, very hot in the summer. And a lot of the Gulf, the people who live in the Gulf would leave the Gulf and go into United States, United Kingdom, they go to Paris, they go elsewhere. And part of our marketing focus that we've placed, which is again part of our strategic direction, is that when they leave the Gulf and they go into Paris or Greater Europe, the opportunity exists for us to lure them to Barbados as a second destination for them to come to explore and to enjoy. And that is one of the objectives that we continue to work on. We have Donata, a company that represents islands and countries on the ground who are working with us. Very shortly, we will have a resource from Barbados or from within the market, in the market, in order to drive business from the Gulf states to Barbados. We are obviously looking at another strategy and how best we can build out maybe additional airlift, but that is at a very preliminary stage at the moment. But the simple question to answer before I allow the others to weigh in, it has to do with what we want to do for summer. And no longer are we prepared to accept that the summer is the summer and that we have to wait for whatever has to come. We have to build the market, and that is exactly what we're doing. The UK team, as I indicated when the consultant was there, working through with a number of institutions, is a great opportunity for us and for that market to drive additional business. We are also working with a number of football clubs. We are exploring opportunities with Wimbledon as well for marketing of Barbados during the summer, so we give people that appreciation for what we have to offer. And there's several other initiatives. But I will pause. I will ask the chairman of the BTMI, who's here with us, as well as the CEO, to also weigh in on the opportunities for sports tourism. But I'm very confident in the individual that we have working with us. I'm very confident in the team that we have to support this drive. And with the additional seats that we're getting out of the United Kingdom market this summer, it therefore means that we have to ensure that our marketing activities are in order to generate the required airlift capacity for Barbados and to maintain it as well. Because as I indicated, BA will be putting on this on the London route, a bigger aircraft in order to facilitate the movement of such traffic. But I'll ask the chairman to weigh in on this matter, the BTMI to weigh in on this matter as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Shelley Williams, Chair of Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc. Just following on from my minister, we looked at sports tourism in two lights. We looked at it as in who do we partner? Are we our destination, a sporting destination? And we also looked at how to drive business during the summer season, or what we call the low season periods, where we thought that this would be the ideal way to bring business to Barbados and tourism to Barbados through sporting events. So first, for my board, we started to look at what our destination can offer big sporting events. So you would have seen most recently that we signed a deal with PGA. And whilst we do not have an actual PGA tournament, what they have done is actually signed Barbados is now the first tourism destination that they will promote at all of their events, corporate as well as the actual tournaments. You would see that it would give us opportunity for the players to come down, PGA players to come down, build content out of Barbados, Netflix opportunities, things like that, showcasing what we have to offer as a destination, a golfing destination. We also looked at our partnership with the Royals, and with partnership with the Ministry of Sports, to look at how they can develop not only us sponsoring them, but what they can give back to our communities. So you would have seen that Royals then went in with the female cricketers and went into the communities and start to train and teach our young upcoming female cricketers. So those are some of the initiatives we're doing. As a sporting event during this season, we just had our sailing week. We're now going to have our fishing tournament that is earmarked to bring in 45 ships, fishing vessels all around the Caribbean as well. And some will fly and some will come down with their actual boats. So that event actually plays host to about 800 persons. That does very well for us. We also will be seeing the surfing. We have partnered with the World Surfing League to have a QS 5000, and that is the highest ranking qualifying series before you can get into the World Championships of Surfing. And that in itself has been very much a success for us. We are the first Caribbean island to be able to offer such an event. It's normally done in Hawaii and California, and Barbados is playing host to some of the world-class surfers, and that's going to happen in March. And they right now they're closing their entries, but last they spoke to me, they were almost at 850 persons coming. So to continue that trend, obviously we know we have World Cup cricket as well, and we have motor racing. So you're going to see that every month we are pushing sports tourism, not only as a destination, but also for the sporting clubs. As the minister well mentioned, the board has brought on a consultant to help us work with sports tourism, and that person has been going to speak into cricket clubs, not only the larger cricket clubs, but also the college cricket, not only in the UK, but in the US. So we are feeling that you'll soon see, not for this period, but definitely for the next summer period, you will see sporting clubs like swimming, tennis, and football, as well as smaller cricket clubs come into Barbados, and they normally bring their families with them. They normally bring teachers and family members and along with them. So we are moving in that right direction, and I will give way to my CEO. Thank you.
Shelley, not consultant. Not the board has hired a consultant. We're working through with the shared resource with the Ministry of Tourism, just for the record of Parliament, so it'll be clear. The other issue is that, before I give way to the CEO, what we also have to recall is that as we execute our marketing programs, we will have a number of initiatives being executed in the market. And the marketing team will be structuring not only a summer program for what we consider to be the leisure traveler, but also packaging it in such a way that we have a sports tourism package that would allow persons to come here and immerse themselves into what we have to offer in terms of sporting activities on the island. Of course, there are people who would want to come and see where His Excellent Cigar Fusovers would have come from in terms of a destination. There's some people who want to come and see the Mecca, known as Kensington Oval. And then there are others who would want to perhaps come to Barbados and understand where the likes of the late Malcolm Marshall and other sporting legends that we have in Barbados. In fact, last October, when we were at World Travel Market, you would have seen the theme that we would have adopted at World Travel Market, where it had the legends meeting the legends. And we were fortunate to have with us at our booth, or on the stand as they call it, or pavilion as they call it, Collis King, former West Indies batsman, as well as Joel Garner, that famous West Indies fast bowling great. and they were there with us on the pavilion at World Travel Market, and the response was huge. And we took time along with our consultant to drum up additional support by working with the legends of Barbados in order to build out. There's still a lot of work to be done, and I'm confident that the consultant that was hired by the Ministry of Youth and Sports, working very closely with us, will make a significant impact. And the other strategies that we have planned, like I say, from the Gulf states, will go a long way in trying to shore up. Essentially, the goal is to ensure that we can build a stronger summer business in Barbados using a variety of tactics. But I'll pause and I'll ask the CEO of the BTMI to come in or the marketing person. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. Following on from comments from the Honourable Minister and my chair, I just wanted to go a bit deeper into some of these strategies that we utilize to take the opportunity of sports tourism. What we realize from our research is that sports usually captures a huge audience in one place at a time. So globally, we have sought to partner with key sporting organizations to make sure that we take that opportunity which is at hand. So across tennis, NFL, football, etc., we have an audience that we can market to at that point in time. And I think that gives us a huge amount of visibility. It's very impactful because we know sports is very heavily watched across the globe. And, we've sought to take the opportunity at hand. Added to that, what we have done in our negotiation is to make sure that it doesn't end there. So one of our partnerships, for example, with an NFL team would see us not only having the opportunity to do in-stadium marketing, but also benefit from off-season. So those players will be invited to Barbados when they are preparing for the new season, and they would do their preparations here, and as a part of that, they would usually share on social media some of the content of them actually in Barbados, enjoying our beaches for preparation to train, enjoying some of our facilities. So persons around the globe who follow them will see they're in Barbados and they're actually using what we have here, both naturally and built. In fact, I think last year, for those of us who follow football, we would have seen one of the EPL football stars here actually at the Wilde football turf, posting content of him in Barbados, preparing for the start of the new season. So we think that that content throughout the summer and those persons actually bringing their families here to prepare for the new season is another aspect that we utilize sports tourism. And finally, I think we have locally strategically worked closely with the Ministry of Sports and other partners to make sure that across the summer period, and especially in those low periods, we have sporting activities on the ground that drives that visitation and also drives that Barbados, the eyes to be on Barbados at that point in time. So for example, my chair would have mentioned Rally and PGA, but we also will have a Legends Cup, European Legends Cup golf here in May. We will also see the CPL, which is very big in the Caribbean here in August. And also we will see Carifta, the triathlon being here at the end of the summer period as well. So those are just some examples as to how we utilize sports tourism in our marketing activities. Thanks.
Last question. As I say, asking for a friend. Minister, I believe that our first tourist should be a Bajan, right? I had an interesting phenomenon when I went to China, and I was doing all the touristy things in China, and I realized that the bulk of people around me were Chinese. And most of the Chinese never leave China. So their tourism product is aimed at attracting persons into the major cities, into Beijing, to see the tourist attractions as well. So their first tourists, literally, they pitch to their people who live in the country, who would otherwise never leave their village. Now, China is different to Barbados. Barbados is way smaller than China, although we seem to think we're the same size. I noticed, for example, Chaka, Harrison Cave. Harrison Cave rebranded itself, and their obstacle course and their zip gliding thing and zip lining thing, a lot of Bajans are actually doing it and posting the pictures, so it's getting a lot of traction within Barbados from Bajans. So I don't think it's going to suffer in the same way a lot of other tourist attractions are going to in the, what we call the downtime, the summertime. I wonder what initiatives does your ministry have and the organs within your ministry have to pitch in at some internal tourism. It may not yield an increase in arrivals, but it may actually help to prop up some of those aspects of the tourism product that would otherwise be suffering come summer. And if I get even more specific, we used to have a program of staycations where the staycation rate was literally half of what the overseas rate was. That in summer you pitched it. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have your hotel plant closed up in summer and the tiles popping up and the pipes bursting because they're not being used. And I do think this is an initiative we should really look at considering to keep some money circulating in that aspect of the economy, which may not result in people having to be laid off in the numbers that they are in the summer months. Encouraging Barbadians, encouraging restaurants to run specials that would attract Barbadians, encouraging Barbadians to go to restaurants. And lastly, this is all interlinked, lastly, we've come a long way, but I still see, I go a lot. And some Barbadians seem to believe it is beneath them to serve Barbadians, right? Some Bajans believe that we pull out the fake accents and we put on all the pleasantries if it is a tourist. But when a Bajan comes into the same establishment, that Bajan gets a different type of treatment. Now, I'm glad to say it is not as prevalent as it once was, but I'm raising it because it happened and I witnessed it within the last 2 weeks. Now, what is going to sell Barbados? We are an expensive jurisdiction. We are an expensive destination. So our service must match our price point, and it must be across the board. I do believe there should be an initiative somewhere that aims at training and reinforcing that service is not servitude, reinforcing across the country, not necessarily only in the tourism sector, but across Barbados, that tries to raise what we consider the standard level of service that anybody going into the registry, going into the polyclinic, going into Harrison Cave, going into wherever, a restaurant, that Barbados stands out because of the service we deliver. And to me, this is an easy one. This costs the money and training, but it's an attitudinal thing. And for any time it takes hold, then the persons who don't deliver that service at that standard are going to, by attrition, they would drop out and drift out by their own attitude. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in there for training or a program to promote good service values in Barbados and a proper work ethic. And also in relation to encouraging internal tourism. And finally, as I said, asking for a friend, summer is coming up, pushing a program for staycations that allow Barbadians to chill out, enjoy themselves, relax in the summer months, and not have to pay the plane ticket to go somewhere else to do it.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I do agree that staycation is one of the features within our summer offerings in Barbados. I don't have any information in respect of the number of staycations or the number of Barbadians who actually purchase staycations, but what I can tell you, based on what I hear, is that a number of hotels have reported some measure of success in respect to staycation programs. I'm also aware, particularly in the summer, that you have a lot of locals who go into the restaurants in Barbados, as they do sometimes in the summer once they can get in. And the issue for us has to be, how do we arrange or get appropriate rates for persons living here to have a staycation? Now, the setting of rates, as you would well imagine, is not within the reach of the ministry. That is really a hotel decision in respect of how they schedule or plan their rates for the summer. Of course, I believe that there is more than enough room inventory in Barbados for the hoteliers to benefit from this particular segment of the market. It is growing, and you can tell it's growing because as you move around Barbados, there are people who will tell you that they have visited a hotel or they have taken their families for a weekend, and particularly during certain periods. I believe it was last year when there was a newspaper report where Barbadians were saying that they could not get into a hotel in Easter because the hotels were fully booked. So that is the challenge that we are faced with. As we build out the summer and we pursue our strategies, this is even going to be more difficult of a task, because if the revenue managers manage well, it therefore means that it is possible that the numbers that we saw in hotels for staycation would probably not be as great as we would like them to be. I support your position in respect of training and development. I've worked in the hotel sector. I'm a firm believer in it, and I have executed training programs myself. What we have to do is that we have to ensure that the human resource element within the hotel setting remains a critical element in respect of the delivery of training. We have the National Transformation Initiative, and they're also utilizing a number of trainers and presenting a number of training courses to the public at large, and there are programs that are specifically catered to the tour hospitality sector. We also had more recently the launch of Florida International University's Chaplain School of Hospitality in Barbados, another opportunity designed to train persons within the hospitality sector and to allow those persons in turn to become better at their jobs. Training for me, as I indicated in my open remarks, is absolutely paramount. If we are going to maintain our competitive edge, we will have to continue to train and to retrain. And that is something. I must also take this opportunity to thank the hoteliers who would have done an inordinate amount of training of their staff and preparing them not only for the winter season, but also during summer. It is an opportunity for which they must be, at all times, be commended for the investment in training. And I want to say from this honorable chamber that I will wish for them to continue to build out their training activities for their staff. Training does make a difference, not only to the destination, but training does make a difference in the hotel itself. Be it upselling in terms of if you're in an EP property, or if you're in an all-inclusive property, upselling the services and tours that we have to offer. Barbadians are known for their warmth, for their friendliness, and generally for their almost spontaneous hospitality. And that is a hallmark that we have to keep. But at the same time, we have to train the workers because they're changing dynamics within this sector. Obviously, training when the hotels are difficult, there are times when obviously workers can't be released. But what we are working and what we have to achieve in Barbados is to have a protocol essentially designed with the Barbados Workers Union to ensure that there is a release program and a release program with pay for workers to attend training seminars. Training, like I said, is a huge benefit to the employer, and therefore I don't believe this will be the issue. Already, when training programs are held at hotel establishments and restaurants in Barbados, the workers are usually paid, so I don't believe that will be a major issue. But I support your proposition that training and retraining must be a critical component of our human resource management, and also a very critical component in us maintaining our competitiveness in the market space. Maybe I should ask Marcia Aline of the BTMI to weigh in on this issue as well. Marcia?
Thank you, Minister, Chairman. Honourable Minister, for your question as it relates to the first tourist being a Barbadian and the programs that we've put in place to ensure that the domestic tourism is actually has captured our interest. The Minister has spoken, I think, quite extensively on the training programs, and I'll just speak briefly to the programs as it relates to domestic tourism. We implemented at the BTMI a program called These Fields and Hills that we implemented, I think, in 2022, where we were able to encourage Barbadians to go out through the length and breadth of the island through a very innovative and creative program called the Tourism Treasure Hunt for Barbadians. And we were able to see a number of Barbadians actually traverse the island and learn a lot about the product on the island. And that program was designed specifically not just to teach them about Barbados, some of the areas that they beforehand would not have been familiar with, but also to encourage them to frequent the attractions that we have on island as domestic tourism as well. We want to continue that program, and this year and beyond, we will be continuing it through encouraging Barbadians to be part of that, to visit the attractions. We've actually written to some of the attractions and asked them to give favorable consideration to rates that are, consistent with locals. You see it happen in places like Orlando, where the locals are actually given preferential rates. And so we've written to the attractions, and over the summer period, a number of them do offer specials for tourists who are locals throughout the island. And so that's what we actually do in terms of encouraging Barbadians to actually visit the attractions and participate in the activities that we have on island.
Thank you very much, Marcia. And Minister, to your point, in terms of, and I'll share this statistic with you, the Harrison's Cave Eco-Adventure Park. In 2022, we had approximately 15,000 locals going there. And in 2023, and that's coming out of COVID, and in 2023, we've had close to 19,000. And when you look at the number of long-stay tourists, and you look at the number of locals, and they also have cruise ship passengers who go through there, it tells the story that you're referring to, that there is a market, and particularly during the summer periods, you can see that the locals do play an important part in contributing to the numbers of customers who go through. And I'm sure that we can replicate this in the restaurants, in the water sports. We can replicate this in the hotels where you see a number. Whereas we have the numbers, for example, the Harson's Cave Eco Adventure Park, we really need to work now on a data collection to see how best we can collect data to see how many locals are purchasing packages to go into a hotel for a staycation. That is something that we have to work on, and I give you the assurance that we will work on that as we look to see the composition of visitors, cruise ship passengers, and locals to really substantiate the point. I thank you.
Minister, I want to thank you and your team for a very thorough presentation and for answering my questions. I must necessarily pause here because I've reached 3 questions and I believe you're overdue for lunch. But rest assured, I may actually tack you back this afternoon as it is my privilege so to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that you do report progress to His Honour the Speaker and beg leave to sit again.
The question is that I do now report progress to His Honour the Speaker and beg for leave to sit again. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman has reported progress and requests leave to sit again. Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until 2:30 p.m.
The question is that this honourable chairman be suspended until 2:30 p.m. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This honourable chairman stands suspended until 2:30 p.m.